Hi everyone, it's Helen here from Helen Chapman Handmade Crafts, and today I'd like to show you how I created this emboss resist watercolour card. I'm using the Sailing Home stamp set, and I'm going to use a few of the images from there. And the sentiment that I've chosen is actually from the Forever Blossoms stamp set. I'm going to use the Always and Forever. I've got everything we need over here. The card base is Whisper White thick cardstock, and this piece measures 21 centimeters by 14.9, and it's scored at 10.5 centimeters along the long edge. We can fold and burnish that. The next layer is a piece of Pacific Point cardstock, and that measures 14.4 by 10 centimeters, and we can pop that straight onto the card base. A little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue. And we can pop that in place. Making the most of my wiggle time today. Okay, not entirely straight, but we'll we'll go with it for now. Next is a piece of the Fluid 100 watercolour paper, and that is 9.5 centimeters by 13.9. Obviously that's going to be our main card front. I've got the small boat, the lighthouse, the anchor, and the larger boat here. I'm going to start by stamping those. I'm not going to worry about the embossing body, because partly because I'm going to be embossing in white, and partly because there's some texture to the paper. I really don't mind if I get extra bits of the embossing powder. It'll just add to the texture. Got my Versamark pad, and going to build up the scene, starting with the lighthouse in the foreground, and I'm going to take the large boat, also pop that in the foreground. The anchor I'm going to put in the top right. So going off the page a little bit with that one, and the smaller boat over to the left hand side. Okay. Now you might want to use a piece of scrap paper at this point, just to catch your embossing powder. Now, because I've got Versamark all over the card, I'm going to be quite liberal with it. I'm going to do the sentiment afterwards, once I can see where the rest of my images are. Tap that off. Have a quick look to see if there's any bits that you really don't want. If you've got a sort of a dry paintbrush or something, you can give that a bit of a wipe over. Then I just warm up my heat tool. And I'll just take this off camera a sec just to stop the noise from being quite so dramatic. So I'm just embossing all of those images, moving the heat tool as soon as I see the powder turn. So hopefully you can see that catching the light there. Now I'm just going to pop this back into the pot. And then we'll do the sentiment. I just wanted to be able to see where the images were before I stamped the sentiment. But if you wanted to do it all in one go, that's entirely up to you. Okay, so trying to get that central-ish and straight-ish. Tap off the excess. I tend to heat from underneath the card. I find that works better for me. Okay, so you should be able to just see the sentiment catching the light there. Now we'll pop some of this to one side. Put the lid back on that while we remember, otherwise it can get a bit messy. And for the watercolouring, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the clear blocks as palettes. So I'm going to take 3 fairly small blocks, and the colours that I've got are Balmy Blue, and what I find easiest is literally just to push the block into the pad. Pacific Point. And finally, Night of Navy. And then with the, I'll show you the 2 nibs. So with the thicker, larger nib first, I'm going to just apply the water where I want to colour. So I normally have like an old tea towel when I'm doing watercolouring, just to clear up any mess. And I'm just going to apply the water. Hopefully you can see some of this going on. So I've applied that over all of the images, and then using the smaller nibbed aqua paint, so I'm just going to start picking up some of this colour and popping it down. And just swapping between the different shades of blue just so that they all blend in. And it's entirely up to you whether you blend it quite heavily or leave it so that it's relatively blotchy. I quite like the blotchy effect. And again, you can blend it in without too much ink on the brush. Need a little bit more over here. Okay, and then what I've also done on the original card is I've kind of done some splatters. So picking up bits of the ink and literally just tapping the aqua painter against your hand. And you can squeeze out a little bit of water if you want some bigger blobs. Like so. And then what I might do is just give that a quick dry so that I can show you the rest of it. So just using the heat tool just to dry that off a little bit. And I'll just get my trusty tea towel and just dab this over a bit so that we don't get the card base too wet. We can bring that back in. I tend to leave these to dry naturally, but if you are in a bit of a rush, then the heat tool is a good option. If your paper is really wet, you might find that it moves some of the ink around a little. Pop that into place. And then what I would do is I would put something heavy on top of that to help flatten it out and stick it to the card base. What I find is quite useful is one of your mats from your big shot. Just pop that on top and leave that for a couple of hours or however long you've got really. But I'll just show you that one and the original. There we go. And really, my main message is don't be afraid of watercolour, because I mean, you may well be aiming for artistic perfection, in which case, you know, you're going to need practice. But I think these sort of techniques are just so easy to do and look so stunning that don't be afraid of it. Literally turn your blocks into a palette, pick up your aqua painter, get hold of your fluid 100 and just play around with it, practice with it, and you know, you'll come up with some lovely techniques. And it's great for backgrounds, but also for things like this, resist techniques. Just play with it, have fun, enjoy using it. And you'll surprise yourself. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, give the video a little like, and consider subscribing to my channel so you get notified when I post more videos. And there is a blog post available for this card as well, and I'll put the link to that in the description of this video. So pop on over there to my blog and have a little look around, and I hope to see you all really soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.